Hey everybody, it's Pete A. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show. I'm also your friend. Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Love that you guys are here today for today's episode with Eddie Wright. Eddie Wright is a former Marine, I guess technically always a Marine, but no longer active. Eddie was in the First Battle of Fallujah. This is back in the soft-sided vehicle days. Imagine this, driving around in canvas-sided Humvees. He gets to a firefight because that's what happened a lot in Fallujah in 2004, and basically catches an RPG, and it takes off his arms from basically the elbow down. Double amputee, catastrophic, and not even in the fight very long before this happens. And this is what's remarkable about Eddie is he's become a bit of a veteran celebrity. People love him. I know I do. He's just an interesting dude, and his energy and positivity is fantastic. And so you're going to love hearing his story about how he's dealt with this. Scott joins us remotely via car, which is a great idea, except for it makes the audio a little bit tougher to sort out. So apologies on the audio. Hang in there. It does get better later on when I sort of sort out how to deal with that. But look, Eddie's a remarkable guy. And in general, military amputees from combat zones are remarkable. They kill themselves at a rate that's about 5x to 10x of traditional non-amputee veterans, which is shocking. But there's so many of these guys that are just absolutely made better by this. They become better people. They find an adversity they can overcome, and they just lead the way. And it's remarkable. And Eddie falls into the latter category, and it's just someone I admire a lot. And I think you guys will appreciate it too. Hey, support the Break It Down show. Go to the breakitdownshow.com page, and there's a PayPal link in there. If you don't want to do that, email me, pete@breakitdownshow.com. I'll send you the PayPal link. That link allows you to create your own little personal subscription. You can do something one time, or you can do something monthly. Reason why we do that? Well, everybody's like, hey, do Patreon. I don't want to do Patreon. Patreon gets in the way. They charge more money than PayPal does. I don't need Patreon. I need you. You and I. Would you buy me a beer? Would you buy me a sandwich? Do you just want to support the work that I do? Put $10, $20. If I get 1,000 people to put $10 in subscriptions each month, I can do a lot. It'll free up a lot of the time that I have to do things behind the scene and get me out in front of the camera, get me on the road. That's what I'm asking for. Enable me to put together some advertising budgets so that the show can be discovered even more. So we're trying to build that. And look, you don't get the 10,000 by going to 1, by 2, by 20, by 40, so as we go along, I'm going to continue to put the money right back into the show. Equipment. I mean, I probably buy a new piece of equipment every month. There's always something new to either upgrade or repair or replace. And that's what you're supporting. You guys know I work hard. That's what I'm asking for. And I appreciate if you guys do it. If you watch on YouTube, subscribe. That helps. If you want to ring the reminder bell, hey, that also helps you know that we put something up. Either way, just know that I'm going to be out there. I'm going to continue to create content, and I can't do it without you all. So thank you very much for helping. And if you're on the fence, hey, listen. Help me out. Get off the fence and come on my side, and you can always stop. I'm never going to bug you about it. I'm never going to twist your arm. I'm just going to say, this is the kind of help I need. I need small financial donations from a bunch of people so that I can put that money to work and put it in the show and make the show even bigger and better. We're growing constantly. I'm trying to add a third person into the mix, and Dragon is taking on more of the publishing stuff. It's such a relief for me, and it lets me do more things. All right, enough about that. Here comes, wait, hold on, one more thing. SaveTheBrave.org. Go there, do what you're supposed to do, and let me know. Charity. Got to do charity. All right, here comes Eddie Wright.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Eddie Wright. You're watching the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
That's right. I've got, so Scott booked Eddie Wright, and then Scott is actually on the road to Arizona to, I think, Phoenix to do some TV stuff. And so Scott may or may not pop in, but either way, it's always a good chance to, especially when there's so much unrest, and I would like to get your opinion on this, when there's so much unrest in our nation, and we've seen so much instability abroad, guys like you and I, we were both in Baghdad in April 2004 when you had your accident. Or I guess your attack.
I was in Fallujah.
Right. I was a few miles away, and boy, it's crazy. The whole situation is crazy out there. But now we're trying to add some crazy here in the States. I guess, before we do anything else, for those that don't know your story, just give them the down and dirty, and then we'll just have a conversation from there.
Okay. I'm a retired Marine. I was an infantry Marine, an 0311, and then I went over to First Recon and got schooled up, got my 0321 MOS, became a reconnaissance Marine. So I did a deployment to Iraq for the invasion in 2003, and then I came back. That's when I went over to Recon, and then I deployed with 1st Recon Battalion in 04. And I got hit with a rocket-propelled grenade in an ambush April 7, 04 in Fallujah, which took my hands and almost my leg, almost my life. Then I had the recovery, at Bethesda and Walter Reed, and I've had different career opportunities come my way. And now I'm, I guess it's about 16 years later, just enjoying life, been able to stick it through all this time, without quitting or giving up or falling prey to a lot of things that veterans do. And I'm just trying to turn it back around and be a positive voice, kind of like you, man. Just get out there. And in this world where everything's all sort of effed up and people are acting stupid, we don't all have to be stupid. We can all have some sort of reason somewhere. So I think that's where I'm at. I'm just trying to figure this out without stressing about it.
Yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate you starting that out. And you've said so many things that I want to expand on. Let's first explain to people, like doctrinally and practically, what a recon Marine is, because there's the answer, and like you see a movie, but like no shit. Like, what are you guys supposed to do, and then what do you guys actually do now that you've deployed?
Well, I mean, a reconnaissance Marine is basically the eyes and ears at the forward edge of the battlefield for the battalion or regiment or division, and battalion recon. We do, and force recon. We're very similar in our paths of training, but then when it comes down to our mission assignments and profiles, force will have more of a direct action mission, and they can work for the division or you can hire. We are we do direct action too, but a lot of the things we do, I can speak about what we did. We had a lot of problems with rockets and mortars hitting the bases, people putting IEDs in. And so we were tasked with just being eyes and ears for basically anybody who wanted to use us, and also with ambush of opportunity missions. So if we happened to stumble upon somebody who was doing something stupid, we could make the call on our own. Because at the time we were doing team insertions, which was pretty cool, just out there, 6-man team, trying not to get compromised and just kind of gunslinging kind of the old-fashioned way, bro.
Yeah. So let me take that and further explain it for the audience. So there's different echelons in the military, and someone like the Marines, because they're not a giant force, they don't usually hold a lot of land. Sometimes that's different, but primarily what these guys are is they're a tool that another battle space owning commander can use. And maybe they're under a Marine command, but a lot of times the Army can say, hey, we need a force multiplier, a unit to go out. And like, here's one of the missions that I did. We would do just presence missions. So I would go out and collect and do my spy stuff. The infantry guys were out there to handle anything that showed up, but primarily we were there to interdict the mortars going into the green zone. By being randomly present in the area, it made it harder for the enemy to operate with the theory. And so, as you know, that's all great until you walk into a fight, and then there are 6 of you, or in our case, it was let's call it a heavy squad, but it's a heavy squad sounds like plenty of people until people start shooting.
Yeah. We got into some engagements in the team element, but those were like decided engagements that we chose to get on. When I got wounded, we were actually probably a company reinforced on a movement from Camp Fallujah to another spot. It was that first time we surrounded Fallujah, and we were going to lock it down. And so I had organically in our platoon, we had 3 teams, but they were 5-man teams. So we always had to plus up with an addition from headquarters or somewhere else to make 6, if we were doing team insertions. And sometimes we did things as a platoon, but we were basically 23 with attachments in our platoon, and then strung out along the single Lane Road, around Boston, which was south of Fallujah, just kind of went east-west, to where the guys in the back of the movement, some admin attachments, I think we had a 5-ton attached to us, kind of weren't able to get in on the fight. So it was estimated, and there's a big gap here, 40 to 60 enemy fighters ambushed us. Of course, we knew we were going to get ambushed, so it's one of those things where you're like, for me, I'm like, here it goes. I spit my dip out, dismounted my saw from the pintle mount on the side of the Hummer, and just got ready to be able to handle whatever came our way, which was a bunch of guys trying to kill us.
Yeah. I want to spend a little bit more time on this just to give some of the reality to what we're talking about here. You guys are going out every day knowing that people are trying to kill someone. They're just trying to attack a unit that's moving. And, okay, so you have to move in a 6-man element. That's the minimum standard. That's not because it's safe to do so. It's like, if a small team needs to move, how do we get those guys off the camp and mobile? Okay, you have to have 3 vehicles, these kind of weapons, this many people, and then yes, you can do these short maneuvers. But that becomes a command tool where they're like, well, you've got the 3-vehicle convoy, go do this mission. People don't understand how small these teams are. And as you said, you get stretched out. You get 3 or 4 buildings between you, and it becomes very dangerous. It's not a linear A to B fight. It's in every direction, And
that's something you have to make peace with, or you're just going to be stressed out. I mean, honestly, you got to be like, it's going to happen. I can't worry about it. Because it has no place, like right there, like the worry doesn't serve you. I mean, ideally you want to be able to logically think your way through it and get your head back in the game, which I think, once you make it to the level of a reconnaissance Marine or these other units where it requires you to volunteer and then you're vetted by screenings and indocs and schoolhouses that are designed to really graduate only the people who can mentally and physically handle this additional burden, because when you operate in a small unit like that, now there's less than 1,000 reconnaissance Marines worldwide, I'd say.
Right.
And out of those 1,000, what is like 60%? I mean, how much of that percentage would actually be operators, and how much is support? So we're small, but we can get a lot of stuff done with the maturity level and the level of training, So, and they give us tools. We have tools that we can use that are our toys that might be a little sexier than the regular might have. What's up, Scott?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Yeah, we were just in the middle of talking about defining what a force, a Marine Recon or Force Recon, what their mission is, and describing how alone you can be in a 3-vehicle convoy, 6 people, and all of a sudden a firefight jumps out. And Eddie was explaining, like, you make that choice before you get there. And I was going to add to what you were saying, Eddie, the mental preparation. You talked about the mental aspect. We can all picture guys doing push-ups and chin-ups and, like back bends and all that stuff to stay strong, healthy. But you have to always be prepared. Your kit has to always be right. There are no rooms for those small mistakes because you're relying on each other at the highest level, because there are only 6 of you or 7 or 10. You can't be like, oh, shoot, I forgot my knife, my scissors, whatever it is. You have to have all these things.
Yeah, everybody's got an individual responsibility that overlaps, like your training overlaps. So if you do have to lose a man or something happens, you want to be able to pick up the slack for that guy, maybe the radio operator. You can't just be like, I don't know how to work this damn thing. Same with any other equipment that's organic to our mission. It's a big boys club. You have to be responsible. You can't just kind of, oh, fuck it, I'll be lazy about it, because you get yourself killed and other people killed.
I think the asset that we have in the history of Marine reconnaissance embedded with ground infantry units, the straight leg infantry guys, are essential to what we do. And they've become a bigger part to the extent that we've entered into the whole special operations community, which is really all of our reconnaissance Marines were the plank owners of that. But the Marine Corps is special too, because we still retain those specialized assets, those eyes and ears that go well forward of the front lines to collect and gather and process and analyze and then forward information back to us that is such a huge enabler to the success of our mission. And then, once we get in there and those guys set conditions and we are successful, they punch out again. So we rely heavily on our reconnaissance community. We always have, dating back as far as it can go.
And we like working. We were working all the damn time. It was, if we came back to the fob, it was for a quick reset and turnaround because I guess there was always something.
There's always something. There really is. There's always something out there. Like you guys, I'm not helpful unless I'm out in front of the camp. You can't go out and gather on the enemy if you're in the chow hall or behind a desk. You've got to go out. But folks in my field, we age out. We rank out of the field work. How quickly does that happen for a recon Marine?
Well, you always get yourself busted down and stick around a little longer. But, it doesn't joke around so it doesn't happen as quickly in the reconnaissance community because maybe our platoon sergeant wasn't going in team insertions with us, but definitely coming out in the platoon or larger size operations. And we're talking guys that are now gunnies or even staff sergeants sometimes in teams where I think when you're in the infantry or some other units, you get that 0369, that's staff NCO MOS, they start to, ops chief, company gunny, things like that maybe would slide you out. But I think you get enough time to get enough taste of it that, at some point, how long do you want to be pulling the trigger? What are you better suited to do with your experience and your knowledge? If you're able to be a better force multiplier by being behind the scenes, then that's where you belong. You know what I mean?
It's the same thing with on the spy side. You have guys that are better operationally. There's guys better tactically. Guys that are better at analysis, and they kind of find their way into the crowd. It's just you don't often stay in the field because it is dangerous. It is hard to do for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the day when your attack happens and you lose your hands, the mindset, you say, "Oh, they blew off both my hands," but you don't stop fighting at that point. You're still part of the fight. You just have a new problem set. Talk about how someone gets to that mindset where I think you were shot as well, and still you have a job to do, even if it's getting rid of your job to somebody else. You've had. Hey, Scott, how are you? You are driving towards Arizona, or maybe you're in Arizona by now.
Now driving out to Arizona and actually doing another cool veteran-related project. We got 3 vets on the show today, working with my good friend David Van Wee, working on some documentary stuff, and then just, telling more great stories of veterans, which is what David's really passionate about. And he's not a veteran, but has kind of sunk his teeth into that and knows a lot of good friends of ours like Robert Vera, and that's how we made introduction. Just getting geared up to take on the next project and, just always kind of keep multiple irons in the fire, stay at it. But, again, Eddie's the most important part of this show. And I met Eddie through a good friend of ours who's got to get on the show, Dr. Shauna Springer. And she wrote the book Warrior and a couple others. But I was fortunate enough and honored to be able to read the foreword to Shauna's book Warrior, which Eddie wrote. So I went up to LA and hopped in the Audible studios and read the Warrior by Shauna Springer, which is Eddie's words. And then Eddie and I had never met. The Marine Corps is huge, and even in the infantry community, we don't always connect. But that was such a cool thing, and it was important to me as well. So I flew up to the Seattle area where Eddie lives, and I said, "Hey, man, we got to get together. We got to hang." And it was just a really cool day. We just had lunch and drank beers and hung out for a few hours, signed copies of each other's books, and that's the brotherhood and network that we're so lucky to have. And we are talking and sharing things, and one of the cool things about Eddie is he's never the dude that has a victim mentality. He's out there. He's a natural storyteller. He's really helping a lot of people that I think have dealt with his type of trauma and impact. So it's really just another great thing to be able to be connected to Eddie.
Eddie, you hear Scott say all these great words. What do you think about that? This brotherhood, the sharing of stories, this mutual support. I mean, I know veterans stick together, but it seems like we've learned our lessons from past generations. We're doing our best not to leave any of these people behind, and to the point of signing each other's books, standing there and taking these social media photos, and really working hard to make that difference.
I think very important that we continue to communicate with each other. People wonder sometimes about my resiliency. I'm the same as everybody else, but I think I have a little bit of a blessing in the sense that I'm kind of a people person. It must be the Irish in me, and I like to I talk. I don't think we should shy away from traumatic experiences. But the difference is when we talk about these things and we process them and allow ourselves to feel whatever emotions that maybe we kind of put to the side while we were active duty or while we were working, whatever. I think the important thing is to go ahead and feel those emotions, whatever it might be. But then you got to put it into context, get that prefrontal cortex moving and make that thing work for your advantage, make your mind work for your advantage so that your amygdala, those fight or flight responses tied to like whatever traumatic experience you got, don't run the show anymore. And I think the big part of it is talking to each other and then holding each other accountable. Like, because at some point, we got to tell each other, okay, bro, I've been hearing you fucking bitch about this and cry about this or whatever the fuck your problem is with this. What are you going to do about it? You want to keep spinning your wheels, doing the same thing? Because that doesn't make any sense. It's not making you feel any better. It's not helping your family. It's not helping the people that care about you. And if you're still in the unit, is it helping your fucking unit? I don't think so. So we got to that's the one thing that's good about serving and with each other, and we've all been down the same path, is we can call each other out. Where somebody else who hasn't been there and done that, they might know what's best, but they haven't experienced it. So it's easier to tell them to say, get the hell out of here. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. So it's our responsibility. That goes with it. That's part of what you brought up earlier. We need to work on our mental fitness, not just our physical fitness or our technical proficiency.
Eddie, you're like me in the sense that you're still pretty connected to a lot of active duty guys. And we didn't talk about this when I was in Seattle, but how concerned are you for the guys that, and pretty senior now, but regardless, they saw a lot of horrible things on the battlefield. A lot of them suffered, psychological injuries, the trauma they're dealing with. Some guys are even like you, amputees, and they're still on active duty. They're still dealing with physical challenges, but yet they still haven't unpacked that. I mean, when you think about the work that Sean has done and what you do, I mean, how important is it that these guys on active duty are slowly unpacking that baggage to you?
It's very important. I don't know if we talked about this, Scott, but a few years back I did a resiliency study that involved the Institute for Defense Analysis, Office of Naval Research, and the Marine Corps, and the VA hospital. And what we were trying to do is teach Marines at the First Recon Battalion. That's why I was brought in, just as an adjunct consultant on this one project. So I had to learn about neurobiology and mental fitness and these things. And I got to tell you, these guys were doing it. We saw qualification workup, and they were busy, the one-legged dude in the ass kicking contest, and they had the one weakness, which is also the strength that we don't have. We're all 10 foot tall and bulletproof until we're not. And I think the best way to unpack is to be preventive, and that's what the aim of this study was. Is that we taught guys about what was going on in your mind, how to recognize what the body's telling you about your stressors or whatever. You could, with this knowledge about your physical body, neurobiology, psychology, and ways to be mindful of it, and techniques like breathing and hacking into the autonomic nervous system and things like that with meditation, how to prevent, ameliorate, or mitigate stress from accumulating and becoming chronic or acute, and then it's like we're better off to prevent the disease or the ailment if we can, or to reduce it with understanding and knowledge and communicating, than we are after the fact coming at it with failed methodology like antidepressants and fucking whatever. So it's important. It's something that's still evolving. We're still working on. But hopefully, with people like us talking about it, we can, even one dude, like, I wish, like, even just one of my homies that killed himself, if you get one person, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought this part up because, we've met a lot of military folks along the way who are amputees, and I had no idea until I talked to Mad Dog Maggart, who is he lost his leg through an infection rather than a combat wound, but he lost it in a combat zone. But he said the death rate, the suicide rate amongst amputees is like a multiple higher than the regular veteran rate. Have you experienced the same thing, and can you explain why that might be?
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here, and if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
But he said the death rate, the suicide rate amongst amputees is like a multiple higher than the regular veteran rate. Have you experienced the same thing? And can you explain why that might be?
Well, it's just frustrating, and it gets old, you know what I mean? And for me, I can speak for myself, and I have some friends who've like, killed themselves, and I think, look, guys just kind of get caught in the low end, and they feel like there's nobody to talk to, or they're just tired. It's hard. And I think that the amputations compound it, because sometimes you just want to be a gray man, you just want to blend in. You don't want people to be staring at you because you're missing limbs, or feeling sorry for you, like you should be pitied, And I'd say, like, a lot of public media, mainstream media, is a little bit at fault, where somehow we got caught up and started to, I'm not going to mention the organization, but they were pimping commercials out that made us look like those sad puppies in the ASPCA commercials, like, feel sorry for these veterans and we'll send you a fucking blanket, that stuff doesn't promote a healthy mindset. I'm not with pushing that we're victims, and I think that is contagious and catastrophic, like, to the end state. Like, we want guys to realize how strong we are. I mean, we're fucking combat veterans. Come on now, we can handle this. But it's just, we need to, some of it's ego, some of it's ignorance, but we got to work on our mental resiliency. I mean, we get 2-day separations class, even if you're blown up. What is it, maybe a week? It's just ridiculous. Give me the eye and shake your hand. You know what I mean? Like,
One of the things Mad Dog talked about was you get worn out, you get fed up. You're like, okay, my VA close to me isn't great for amputees, so I'm going to get in my car and drive 16 hours to go to Walter Reed, where they lead the market on that. And it's like, and then you have to go back for a surgery, and then the fitting doesn't work, and so you're constantly having to manage this part of your life. And he's like, you just get worn out from it.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you deal with that? I mean, okay, you can say get tougher, but at some point get tougher,
I try to say, what can I do then? If they're not going to fucking pick up the ball, I can complain and drop, rain fire from on top, the bosses. But honestly, a lot of times I have to tell myself, fuck it, I'm going to Ace Hardware. I'm going to fix my fucking prosthetic myself, because I don't want to wait a fucking month. I don't want to drive to the VA and sit there, you know what I mean, or schedule an appointment, or have a phone call to, make another phone call to schedule an appointment. You know what I mean? It gets old. So I think that's something that, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have broken prosthetics. Always I'm going to need to go back, and it's going to be for the rest of my life. And that's a big issue that the VA should address, because a lot of the things that, like, my friend Casey Owens, he ended up killing himself a few years back. He was an awesome infantry Marine. Everybody loved him. Like, that one caught us all off guard. But you know how long he had been telling people, I'm not getting my prosthetics. I'm not getting my my medical care. You know what I mean? And it's just hard. We want to have a regular life, and the system's set up to help us, but it's a little bureaucratic and bogged down, man. It's like moving a battleship with a puff of wind. Like, it's kind of I'm telling you, it's frustrating.
I'm going to open your mic in a second, Scott, and let you have a chance to ask a question. I just wanted to say this. You're 100% right. Like, I'm working on my packet to up my service connection to 100%. Everybody agrees that it should be there. But right now, because of COVID and everything else, I have to find an advocate who can work through the delay in the system. It's not anybody's fault that there's COVID and that people are working on half scheduling, but it is so damn frustrating and it makes you want to quit. And I just have this one little problem. I'm not missing a limb or anything, but just this one administrative thing is a mountain that you have to get through. And you're 100% right that it causes dismay and discouragement when you have to deal with these things. And I get it. Wrapping up that whole thing with the amputees and their struggles, it does seem like they need even more support than what they've got, because it's one thing to say get tougher, go to Ace Hardware. Not everybody's a Force Recon or a Recon Marine who's like built to overcome things. Some people are simply logisticians who catch around somewhere, and their mental capacity is somewhere else. So we as a nation have to look out for these guys and say it's so important to us that you guys get through this, that we're going to, again, spend more. I mean, combat, turns out, Eddie, it's expensive. It doesn't stop being. The last World War or the last Civil War spouse just died this month, you know?
Wow.
I mean, that's how, now she didn't take a pension, but if she did, we would have been paying for 100 and something years, you know, for these things. And so, yeah, we don't want to lose someone who's this incredible person just because, they get lost in a system of bureaucracy. It's
there's so many other alternative things that could help guys that, because they haven't been vetted through the full FDA system and then gone through the contracting systems to get approved and to actually be available through the VA medical system, guys just can't get it, you know. And like you said, if they're already having enough time just basically dealing with the basic necessities in life and just living, it's going to be so much exponentially more difficult for them to pick up a phone and to be their own advocate, you know what I mean, in the VA system that is so convoluted and big and just full of regulation and bureaucracy, and the doctors sometimes aren't allowed to give common sense treatments, you know. And it's ridiculous because they'll say, well, that's an off-label use. Well, you know how many off-label meds they gave me? In fact, they banned some of them for giving people heart attacks, you know, when I first got wounded. But then they say if you have hyperbaric oxygen treatment that, you know, that's not approved, or a stellate ganglion block injection where the side effects are nothing, you know what I mean? Like, you look at these pills they give you that are for depression, and the side effects is may cause suicidal thoughts. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I already got those.
How's that get approved? You know, and you're telling me I can't do this because I might get high blood pressure temporarily for 30 minutes? Like, come on. So,
I don't want to get bogged down in the VA part, but I did want to kind of cover this amputee challenge, because it's not just the 22 a day. You know, it's how do we get through? And again, I'm going to echo what you said. I went to see my regular care doctor, and I said, hey, I've not seen a dermatologist in 2 years. And he's like, well, show me the mole. And I'm like, no, motherfucker. Standard of care is more than once a year you go see a dermatologist. Quit fighting me on this, or I'll go around you. But if you're already dismayed and you get there, it creates problems. Tell us, okay, that's all that stuff. Tell us where you're at now. What are you working on now? What should we be excited about with Eddie Wright?
Oh, all right. You guys should be excited about my upcoming podcast I got working. I've got some real interesting, fun guests committed to doing interviews. I am honestly working on getting General Mattis on board, but I don't want to ask him yet. He's, every once in a while I'll give him a call and talk. I know him from 2003, you know what I mean? And when we were in Iraq for the invasion, and he was a 2-star. And then I got some friends that I've met. You know, I've turned my wounds and my experiences into something positive, where I'm like, fuck it, if I have a voice and I can share something, I'll share something. I got the gift of gab. I'm Irish and I know a lot of people. Let's get some of my friends on who've been able to overcome adversity or do cool things, you know, like even Scotty on the other line. Like, we had a great conversation when we were sitting having beers in Seattle. I mean, just regular people, I think, can inspire so many people. So that's what I'm doing. It's the E5 Whiskey Podcast. And I got a producer out of New Jersey helping me a bit. And, of course, Scotty's giving me advice. And And so I hope to inspire people. But I'm going to talk about weird stuff too. It's not all business.
I want Eddie to talk about it. I want Eddie to expand on his self-image of the modern day Forrest Gump. That's himself because he travels a lot, and I think that was a cool thing that you post-military service, like he gets out there, he travels to some pretty exotic locations and meets a lot of people well outside the military sphere. And I think that Eddie, if I had to have you answer the question, like, how important is that for you to be traveling, to get yourself out there and meet so many different people? Because we were talking about that.
You're kind of breaking up, but I think you asked me, how is it that I'm always traveling and meeting different people?
Yeah, and how important is it to get up there and meet outside the veteran community?
So that was Scott Husing. It's always awesome to have him around. It's just not working this time. Let's move forward. So, yeah, talk about Scott's question.
Okay, so I think I'm blessed that because of my injuries, doors have opened for me, and I've always enjoyed traveling. I've traveled since I was a kid. I was fortunate enough to have parents that went places. My mother's from Ireland, born and raised. She lives in Ireland, and so I've always loved traveling, and because of my injuries, I've got to meet just incredibly interesting people, like the opportunity to write the foreword for Dr. Springer's book, Warrior. That was a random thing. I got invited to go to, I met her through a friend of mine who met her while she was at the VA that he was going to. And he's like, I met this doc who gets it. She's got it figured out. And so then through her, I meet Scott, and, I keep in contact with a lot of the people that I've met over the years. And I don't know, maybe it's just I'm a people person. I became friends with Paul Wolfowitz, who was the Deputy Secretary of Defense under Rumsfeld and Bush. And I mean, he bought my wife and I a Vitamix blender for our wedding gift. I mean, these people have a different side to them that maybe the media doesn't show, that they're regular people, they're good people. And I'm friends with other, like Jim McMahon. He played for the Bears, the 85 Bears. And whenever I'm in Scottsdale, I stay at his place. And I got a buddy who I met through another veteran thing who's an actor on Chicago Fire. And he got a script one day and he said, this sounds like a role for Eddie. And he asked him if I would do it. And they flew me up and I did a little 2-minute, 3-minute speaking gig on Chicago Fire. I'm telling you, I was telling somebody this the other day, I think I'm Forrest Gumping it through life. I have no idea how fortunate I am, but I do know that I forget sometimes that I'm blessed. And I get down like everybody else, but I always try to remind myself, like, okay, you don't have to be down here if you don't want to be,
Yeah. It's a good way to look at this problem that we all have, when we do get down. I mean, when you get to choose this dangerous life like we got to do and then go out and do it, there's a whole lot of future stuff you can't think about at the time when you're doing it. But now that we're dealing in it, it's like we're still, how many times have you heard someone in our line of work, and when I say our line of work, I mean people that leave the camp as their job, right? Mm-hmm. How many of us have said, I'd rather be in combat than go through this?
Oh, all of us have said that. Yeah. You know why? It's because there's something so very simple about combat. When you're in combat, these other stresses that don't matter, those are easy to shuck off your back. Like, get off, you don't count. I'm here. And so you don't have those emotional, that garbage, the ups and downs, because you can be logical and it's very simple. Like, it's black and white, life and death. And you crack a lot of jokes to relieve the tension. So there's a lot of really good laughter in combat. And for me, that's what I miss, just the simplicity of it. Everything else doesn't matter. It's just a simple existence, kind of monastic in a way. And I'm thinking that's probably why we miss it so much. But I think we can find it without getting shot at if we want,
Just a quick combat. I've been trying to write a book and or a couple of books really, but trying to write a book. And I was thinking about some of the memories, and I'm starting to realize the danger that we all were in at all times. Whether anything happens or not, we don't control for that. We're exposed to it. And a firefight broke out, not where we were, but like 2 blocks away. And so we ended up being in a firefight and I'm standing in this alleyway just by happenstance. That's where I was standing and talking to someone. And now they're around splashing on the wall. And I say splashing, these are bullets hitting the wall, right? Always minimizing. And I'm like, yeah, that's just that. Let's keep working here. It's like, because we were safe where we were. I didn't know who was shooting. I don't know if they were shooting at us, but it wasn't going to hit us from where we were. And we weren't that far. We were maybe, 20 feet away, but in combat, 20 feet might be a mile, And it's just so crazy to be in that situation and to think back to the words that I said, where it's like, yeah, that's nothing. That doesn't concern us. Let's keep doing this. I'm talking to somebody important. I'm literally keeping another human in a conversation where we're in a gunfight,
Hang on, I'm not done talking.
Yeah.
I guess you get used to it. I remember the few times we did get to stay on the base when the rockets or mortars would come in, I'd hear them and I'd be like, oh, those aren't going to hit me. They're on the other side of the base or whatever. Cause you knew they were going to be concentrated wherever they landed. I would roll back over and go to sleep. That's normal, but that just becomes normal.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, talk about your wife stuff. We were plugging. Let me put her Instagram up here. Vegan Blessed. I want to make sure we support the lovely lady.
Yeah. So here's one thing that I faced with my my lifetime of considering myself 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I've I got to worry about my health and fitness, and so like my wife looks like $1,000,000, and she's been vegan for a while. So with all of our traveling, we're like, let's do this. Like you get your social media presence up, and all it is, and I try to talk to. I'm not all the way vegan. Don't get me wrong. Like if you're cooking a brisket, I'm gonna have a piece. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I do it for my cholesterol and my heart health. I think like I'm 45. And I'm in good shape. I feel good, but I know that if I don't watch what I eat, I can't do what I did when I was in my 20s in the battalion and be totally nasty. But it makes a fun way for us to travel because, like guys talk about having multiple streams of income or having different passions that don't feel like work. Well, for her, that's one. And since she's in it, we're in this together. You know what I mean? We're a team.
Yeah.
And that's important. You want to talk about teamwork. I think guys don't put enough emphasis. There's some guys who had very successful marriages and relationships, but like, I think you got to get gangster for each other, like you would your teammates in the Marine Corps. Like you love your woman or your family, then you guys, that's it. That's your new nuclear family, your team. That's who you're on deployment with,
I love that.
She keeps me alive. She wants me to live forever. So Vegan Bless is just her and some friends. And we travel all over the world, and it's just the annoying food blogging stuff that somehow people love. So thanks for giving me a shout out, brother.
Oh, my pleasure. Like you said, we got to be down for each other, and that means we're down for our spouses. People forget too. They don't realize, I guess, we don't tell them enough that our spouses, our kids, they serve. My daughter didn't sign up for anything, and she lost her dad for 10, 12 years. Like I was gone. I mean, I saw her, but I wasn't around to be a father. So
the wives and kids, they really do, and they're very stoic about it. Very. Like, people tell us thank you for our service, and now I think people are starting to tell our wives and our families thank you for their service, and that's super appropriate. You know what I mean? I'm not easy to live with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The ones we love and the ones who love us, they're the ones that see our dark sides. They're the ones that put us up when we're down.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Doc Springer is going to be on the show next Monday. So anybody's interested in hearing this lady talk about how she's handling the PTSD with us veterans, and you're interested in her book, she'll be on next Monday. We've already got her book, and Scott and I will, if Scott's not mobile, Scott will be on the show with me, and we'll get this thing done. I want to go back to your show, man. This is a cool thing. Veterans are telling their stories in real time. Like this little baby firefight story that I just told. That was gone. Like I had to go into my head and get back into the experiences to go, oh, I hadn't even thought about it. And then come in with an external camera and like a seasoned mind, because on my combat mind, that wasn't shit. Like that's just normal. Yeah, there's a gunfight going on. We still got stuff to do,
Well, you're right.
So we're able to pull these stories out and share them. I'd love to hear about what you're trying to do with that.
So it's not just going to be military stories, but but what I want is like, it's kind of ethereal, hard to capture. I want to, with the people that I interview, leave people with a little bit of knowledge. Maybe they know how to be a little more resilient, or maybe they're inspired. And I think some of the cool people I've been able to meet along the way, I say it's like I Forrest Gump my way through, and next thing you know, I'm doing different things, like meeting presidents or future presidents or politicians, which I'm telling you, that's not what I want on my podcast, is a bunch of politicians and stuff. But I mean, I think that life is good, and I think that I can show, in spite of any injuries you have, you can be a positive influence. And I'm going to interview people. Like I said, it can be an athlete, it can be like a homeless guy I meet on the street. If they have some wisdom to share, then they're worth interviewing. And I've got a little bit of everything, and I'm really curious about strange alternative ways of thinking, like when you talk about the way physics and non-local singularities and spooky action at a distance and aliens and like hidden UFO technologies. Hell yeah, we're talking about that too. You know, or spiritual gurus, or like anybody. But I think anybody who brings value to the conversation, and but not only that, can show stories of success, whether that be in the business or military or mindfulness. You know what I mean? Or somehow, they just made it happen in spite of any incredible odds. Because what people don't know about me is I put every obstacle in front of me that I could before I joined the Marine Corps. I was an angry kid from a broken family, and I started fighting, and that made me feel good. And I got in a lot of trouble. I joined the Marine Corps. That sounds like bullshit, but I had an adult felony possession of a firearm. I had a juvenile felony for robbery, which we beat a kid up. My buddy took his jacket. I mean, it's not very nice and it was fucked up, but like I was a young punk, man. I went to juvie for 20 months. I was in county jail for 3 months. I fucking got a GED while I was in juvie, and I joined the Marine Corps with a GED and a juvenile felony and an adult felony, and all that shit is true. And I'd always wanted to be a reconnaissance Marine. And what I think would be cool to share in like my story or in the podcast would be these synchronicities that keep seeming to happen. When I was a kid, I read this book called First Recon, Second to None by Paul Young. And I'm like, I want to be a recon Marine. It was about his experiences in Vietnam. Well, at some point in Fallujah, I was on a patrol with my team. It was nighttime. We're just 4 of us, because 2 dudes were in the hide site. We're on the River Euphrates on the southwest side of Fallujah, where those little farms were and farmhouses. And I'm like looking, and I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm living my dream. Here I am, And after I got smoked, I was at Walter Reed, and I went to the First Recon Association reunion, and guess who's there? Paul Young. And what does he do? He gives me his personal copy of his own book that his old teammates and platoon members from his deployments in Vietnam had signed, with like the Ace of Spades death cards in there, marking places. And what? You know what I mean? Like, these things happen to me all the time. And maybe if I can capture that, you know what I mean? That'd be cool.
Yeah. By the way, when Eddie says he got smoked, he means when he got blowed up good. I mean, however we say it,
Oh, yeah. I got hit with an RPG, blew my hands off.
Yeah, exactly. We use a lot of shorthand in there. Yeah. It is so true, describing all of that stuff, like, no shit, I'm out here doing this. I'm actually out here trying to find these sources and run and influencing a commander. I am doing it right now. And it is sexy. It is cool.
I mean, it's also dangerous. Yeah, like the hard work pays off. So I know that like, no matter what, I already started to learn whatever the fucking obstacle is, whether I put it in front of me or somebody else did, like, I don't have to say no. Like, no, everybody told me, no, you can't join the military. I was like, fuck that. I just kept trying,
There's always a waiver for something somewhere.
Yeah, it took me a year. It took me like 3 years. I had to work, but I think that's the thing. Like, I learned that okay, I have these obstacles in front of me, but I don't have to let it stop me.
I want to talk to, mid-20s you, but then also 45-year-old you, and ask you this basic question. Okay, so let's say that you could make a change and you don't get smoked in early April of 2004. But the outcome is that you do die, but you would get more time on that, in that, dugout on the Euphrates, doing what you did. Let's say you get a whole nother deployment even. Would you trade your life for that more time doing what you love? Both of these, the 25-year-old and the 45-year-old.
25-year-old wouldn't know about how amazing my life is right now. So 25-year-old might make the wrong decision. But 45-year-old, no fucking way. All my experiences, everything I have are there to shape me into the person that I am today. And I like my life, dude. I'm in Puerto Rico right now.
I know.
You see, the beach is right across the street from me.
Yeah.
So, and I'm with my wife, and I feel healthy. I feel good, credit's good. That's 45-year-old Eddie. No, I don't think so. But veterans, they always say they wouldn't change a thing because I think experiences are very valuable. You can't read about everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get to be who you are by going on the path that you went on, and if it means that you lose both your hands or like me, heck, I don't try, but I have an urge to kill myself every day. I manage it. I work through it. When I'm at my best, I feel great. When I'm at my worst, I feel terrible, but I manage to always keep it above that line somehow, not somehow, through my work, I train my ass off to try to make sure that I want to do that. So
it feels good to do something positive. And that's, I think, what keeps me going too, is it's like sometimes to stop feeling sorry for yourself, stop fucking thinking about yourself, think about somebody else maybe, or do something good. Because it never makes you feel better. If you say, "Oh, I'm going to go get hammered drunk again," or whatever, is it going to make you feel better? What if you say, "Fuck it, I'll go on a hike," if you can, or whatever, or drive. Don't drive to the bar. Don't drive to the store. Get some liquor. Just go for a drive. Listen to some music.
It is impossible to feel worse than you do right now than after you get out of a pool. You go for a good, hard swim, you will absolutely, no matter how good you will feel incredible when you get out of that pool.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like magic. I mean, listen, I guess, do you want to ask me any questions? I've been hammering you for an hour. Scott gave you some. I'm glad to entertain whatever you got.
Well, I don't know if I have any questions. I'd like to tell you thanks for having me, and thanks for doing what you do. I think giving guys a voice is very important in their growth emotionally and spiritually, and then so follows their physical growth, like healing. I think there should be more people doing positive stuff like you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, likewise, and thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're just trying to tell these stories, get a little better every day, try not to be so hard on one another. And just in general, everybody listening out there, if you're in the U.S., being so shitty to one another, I mean.
Everybody's tripping. Don't watch I tell people, don't watch the news and then react to anything that you hear. Take everything with a grain of salt. It's like, from working in the intel community, by the time something gets all the way to the top from the street, it's so convoluted. You know what I mean? People are like, how do you know this or how do you know that? Well, I got off my ass and I went over and got eyes on and then made my own decision about it. Like I did that in Seattle when they had the Chop Chaz zone.
Yeah.
I'm going down there. I'm going to see what's really happening. And it wasn't perfect, like some people would like you to think, but it also wasn't all the way anarchy.
Yeah.
It was like this, and then everything, of course, gets distorted by one side or the other as it goes up the media chain.
Yeah.
I say don't worry about it, and be good to each other and shit. Don't forget about the ideology that is America that we all share. Nobody wants to see America fall. Shit.
I love it. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on. Let's do it again. And I'm excited to talk to Doc Springer. She seems like an incredible lady. If everybody go check out Eddie's wife's Instagram account, which is Vegan Blessed. And then also check out Eddie's at E5 Whiskey and look for his podcast. If it's not already out by the time you listen to this, it is coming out soon and available on all podcast platforms. And if I can be of service to you with your podcast, let me know. I can guide you towards some things and teach you how to twist the knobs and everything on your machine. So
Right on. Yeah, I could use all the help I can. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.